Hello, hello, everybody. Uh, Good morning, good afternoon, good night, good evening, wherever you are you're watching me. Thank you for watching. Please don't forget to subscribe, like, share, and comment. Uh, Today's video gonna be breaking a bit of away from what I have been doing so far. Obviously, it's not surprising. Like I said, my channel will be treating about different subjects, as you can see in my profile, and I will be talking about different things. The reason, like I did few video about breastfeeding, is something that is very important to me, and I realize a lot. Like I already said, I realize a lot of people do not really and do not really grasp the importance of it, and I just wanted to put it out there, at least my little contribution, because like I said, I breastfeed three babies. I'm still breastfeeding my son, and I can see all the good things about it, and I just want to share for anyone who maybe did not get the I mean, anyone that I can help, like to get them to maybe to think about maybe breastfeeding, something like that. So, but today video is breaking away from it a bit because I want to talk about the history of tattoo in Africa. There's there's a lot of stigma when it comes to things like tattoo within the African black community. There's always that belief that tattoo are something foreign, and that as a people doing it is like uh, kind of uh, how to say it, like betraying, who we are, betraying her culture, things like that, which is very funny. So that's why I felt like it was very important to do this video. I don't want to do a long video because I don't really like it, and on top of that, so I did the research. I have to research to confirm what I already knew, but I needed to do a few research, like to come with some type of facts that are like official. So yes, like I said, in within the African community, black community, having a tattoo is not really something that is well received. People saying it as somebody who's a bit like going a bit crazy, like something is not right about you, or maybe you're trying to step on the other side. When I say other side, is like everything that got to do with anything that is no anything that go against the law. Exactly, that's the word. So it's very funny because that's the thing. So I always knew that from the moment I would start my channel, I need to talk about it. Probably this is not probably the last time I'm talking about it, but I just want to do a quick video about it. I'm gonna try for the video not to be too long. I don't guarantee you anything because I always try for my video not to be too long, but for some reason they always end up being long. So yes, I was saying, yeah, it's about tattoo. Like when I was searching, I knew, me personally, my first confrontation, I mean, me coming into contact with tattoo, I was very young. It was back home. My great grandmother was still alive, and before going into the thing, I have to tell, my great grandmother was born in the 1800s. That's for sure. She got married early, maybe before the 1800. But what I want to, because I know that the husband, they were already married then. They were already married with all two kids or one child and pregnant when in the 1814. That's when the first World War started, I believe. It ended in 18 no in the 19 mixing the 1914. That's when the first World War started, and it ended in the 1940 1980. And my great grandfather was forced to go and fight for the British. What you need to know, during that war, the war was not just happening in Europe. No, the war was happening everywhere, also in Africa, where they have where the colony was, like where because obviously it was a, with the hard colonies in Africa. So anyone who have where the different colonies were Germany was fighting with the rest of Europe. The way I mean, you understand what I want to say? Anyway, I don't want to. So my great grandfather was forced to go and fight for the British, and when actually was leaving for the war, my great grandmother, I'm not so sure anymore. I don't know if she was pregnant, if she had a small baby, a toddler, and she was pregnant, or she had 2 young kids. I don't know. All I know is that one he came. I mean, so that's what I'm saying to you. I want to tell you that my great grandmother was born in the 1800. I wanted to make so a very early wish 14-year-old with 2 babies, even though people used to marry her very early back then. I don't think so. So somewhere, she was born somewhere in the late 1800. That's when she was born. So I remember when I was little, she was already very old. My grandmother died, I was maybe 8 years old, and she died, she was over 100 years old. And when the first time I saw her, I was fascinated with her feet. You know, she was very, very light skinned, and she got those tattoos on her feet. So it was a contrast between her skin and the ink, the color of the ink on her feet. It was very, very beautiful. I love it. The contrast was very, very beautiful. That's the first time I saw something, and I was wondering, what is this? What does she have drawing on her feet? And later on, we were told that that's how things were done. You know, those representation, each one of them means something. And so even when she goes somewhere or a meeting with people, sometimes she doesn't even need to introduce herself. Somebody who knows you, I mean, everybody back then don't know what things mean. So just look at her, they will know what it is about, what is all this about. So it was beautiful. So when I hear people now saying that tattoo got nothing to do with us, it's just so funny, because like even if you just do a tiny little research, whenever you put the history of tattoo or whatever, the first thing that comes is Africa. Even though some of the people are trying like to kind of like they always do, trying to bring their own, like to try to make that show people that, you know, it came from somewhere else, which is very ridiculous. The first information that come about it is that it originated in Africa, and which makes sense. You know, Africa is the cradle of humanity, the cradle of a man. So people first man appear in Africa, and he just appear in Africa, and then he left. He appear in Africa, he grow in Africa, he reproduce in Africa, he multiply in Africa, and he thrive in Africa. So thriving and all those things before he started going to different other places around the world. So knowing that thing like that, like I said, that's somebody who were born in the late 1800 and having tattoo. That's how things were happening, and it makes sense. You know, like if you go many tribe in Africa, like tribe that have not really been much in contact with the modern world, you will see they constantly have those things. They have tattoo, they have piercing everywhere. You know, different tattoo thing mean, you know, different type of tattoo. Because in Africa you have two men. How to say it? Two main type of tattoo, if you can say that like that. You have the scarification. The scarification, I will come back to that later. And the tattoo. And the scarification, even the scarification, you have 2 different type of scarification, maybe more. But I'm aware only of 2 of them. And yes, so when I went to look a bit to see what was out there, what I could find, I found that the first proof of tattoo in Africa were recorded from a mummy that was found in Egypt, of somebody who lived 5,000 years before the beginning of the modern era. So, you know, like that's like the first record tattoo that when they found that mummy. The mummy, they estimated that it lived 5,000 years before the modern era. But you have to understand, this was not the first tattoo. That was not either the last tattoo. And also you need to understand, because a lot of people want to say Egypt, a lot of people view Egypt with the face that Egypt have today. But you have to understand that Arab invaded Egypt between the 6th and the 11th century, somewhere in between. That's when they arrived in Egypt. And before that, you know, people have been living for thousands of years, and those people were black people, African. Another thing you need to understand is that African come in all shapes. African come from a very pale shade, very pale shade to the very light shade, very dark shade. So you have albino who are very, the skin is, for some of them, the skin is completely like very pale. And then you have other people who are like, the skin is so full of melanin that it look blue. You know, it look a bit like blue, dark blue, you know, so beautiful. So we have all that in Africa. So Africa don't have one face. Africa don't have, even if you forget about the North Africa, you just look, we have different, you can't give one look to Africa. We have millions of, which is normal because it's a crowd of humanity. All the humanity came from the African movement. All the humanity. So it makes sense that that's the way it is. So yes, so that's why I found about it. And what I was saying to you about earlier about scarification, that the different type of tattoo. I will put the illustration so you can see a bit to see what I'm talking about. And once again, I will have to do part 2 of this video because, like I already said, that I'm having issue uploading long videos. So I'm gonna stop here. Please just bear with me and join me for part 2.